Good morning, good morning, good morning, muffin to say folks out there. It is awesome to see every single one of you. I'm looking forward to today, because why wouldn't I be? It's a beautiful day. It's not too hot, not too cold, and apparently we're looking good everywhere we go. Look at that. See? Looks good on TikTok. Looks good on YouTubes. See? Woohoo! We are just everywhere. And like Lego Tech Mike says, it is about 71 degrees. There is no humidity. It is a stunningly beautiful day. You gotta just take these kind of days in. Enjoy them, love them. Because you know what? We don't get that many. We just don't. So hopefully we get some folks in here to come and hang out with us. I'm going to touch on an interesting subject that's a thing that's basically changed, Michael's out enjoying the drive, apparently. He's out doing the needful. Pretty awesome. I want to talk today about something that has literally kind of overtaken the country since COVID, which is kind of interesting, and I don't think is particularly good for society. Not that I don't partake, because I do, but pretty sensical about it, whereas I know others who were less smart about what they do. And that is the proliferation of sports gambling in this country, which is crazy because before COVID, if you talk to Roger Goodell or somebody in the NFL or something like that, they would have essentially told you, oh, we don't want to taint the sport. But now the NFL owns a piece of a gambling site. Disney owns a piece of a gambling site. So obviously, somehow in four years' time, we've gone from we don't want to mess up the integrity of the game to we all own a piece. But here's the thing. Here's the part of the online gambling world that's so kind of insidious and weird. You probably own a piece of it. I own a piece of it in my 401k and everything else because these companies are publicly traded. Now imagine that, right? Imagine being a publicly traded company whose entire business model is gambling. So they answer to the shareholders, which is us, anybody who owns stock in them. And they make money off of their consumers, the people that play the games. So I make money when they lose more. As a 401k holder or as a stockholder or whatever, I would make more money if the people playing the games lost more money. Needless to say, in every casino and everywhere else, we all know the house has the edge. The house always wins, all that kind of stuff. However, in casinos, there's a balance that's understood. That if there's not enough action in situations where players win, they won't come back. And so they balance that. They have to make money, obviously. But they don't have shareholders and stuff like that. So they're not trying to maximize profits for shareholder value. No, that's not really how casinos work. But these online gambling tools like FanDuel and DraftKings, well, they answer directly to shareholders. So they're trying to wallop every freaking person that plays on their platform. That's their entire thing. And that's how things like this massive, massive ad campaign for same game parlays and that sort of stuff comes up, because these are they're fun. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to bet $9 to have a chance to win, I don't know, $500 or whatever. That's cool. But they're really bad bets. And because people are just kind of treating them like, I'd add some fun to the game and we'll just do this. And, they're basically just giving away money. That's all they're doing. They're giving away money. And the casino or DraftKings or FanDuel, they know this. They know this. And they're answering to their stockholders. And the problem is that there's no regulation on any of this online gambling at all. None. There's no real regulation to it. I mean, there are guidelines and blah, blah, blah. But the thing about sports betting and sports gambling is, I know that with gambling, you always see the argument that the house has the edge and blah, blah, blah. But in sports gambling, that's not necessarily true. It is possible for you to be smarter than the people that are checking these lines. It is possible for you to be more connected than the people that are setting these lines. You can actually have an edge in sports gambling, which means that you can win more than you lose. There are plenty of people out there who have done this. But when you see interviews of how these people are courted by FanDuel and DraftKings and all these other online things, they all want you. Come on, come play, do same game parlays and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But the second that those folks start winning, boy, they're not there. Then they put limits on them and everything else. So essentially, what DraftKings and FanDuel does is it will limit or even ban players who win, who are doing the research and being smarter than the casinos. They will ban those players. And there's plenty of examples of this out there. If you search on Google or YouTube or whatever, you're going to find people that FanDuel and DraftKings basically just says, oh, well, you can't bet any more than this amount of money, and you can't, they're out there. And then they encourage bad players. They encourage bad players to come in and play the game, obviously because that's how they make money. Now, this is where I have a problem. I don't have any problems with them encouraging bad players to come play. It's a legal thing. Whether it's moral or not is a completely different story. They're allowed to encourage bad players to come on there and make bad bets and do stupid things. However, they shouldn't limit the smarts either. Period. If they're not going to limit and they're going to basically overextend people who suck at gambling and don't do their research and can't play, whatever, fine. Fine. If we're going to allow you to push same game parlays down everybody's throat and we have to watch a million commercials about it, fine. But don't limit good players. I get it. You have a business model that says we need bad players to lose. We don't need good players to win. But you can't have it both ways. You can't encourage basically unlimited gambling from bad players and then curb what a good player can bet, what a good player can win. Sorry, it can't work that way. It has to work both ways. So if you're going to commit to trying to suck every crappy player dry, then you have to allow the other side to work too. If not, then you're going to have to put in some limitations on how much you will allow a player to lose. Period. That's just the way it is. If you're going to cut off good players and say they can't play, then you have to cut off bad players before they get themselves in trouble. It's just It's really that simple. It's, you know, it's really that simple. And that limit has to be pretty low, to be honest with you. Because the limits that they set on good players, pretty low. Pretty low. They want to make sure that it's not worth their time to bet or use the system. That's the whole point. And you're going to have to do that with bad players too. You're going to have to set the limits pretty low, so it's not really worth their time. I'm just being honest. You can't have one without the other. And that's the problem that you run into when these companies are publicly traded. You know? You can't, it's a conflict of interest. You can't own stock in FanDuel and then, you know, that their whole goal is to make money. Their whole entire goal. And they're making money at the customer's expense, obviously. The only thing I will say is that at least they're making the effort to make the experience as fun as possible. There are all kinds of tools on these apps that make it more fun. Now, personally, me, I don't really do sports betting at all. I'm not betting games. I'm not betting lines. I'm not betting parlays for sure. I don't have any interest in any of that. Every once in a while, you know, it could be fun, but that's not my jam. However, I do bet. I do play the fantasy football stuff on FanDuel and DraftKings all the time. And so basically what that means is you set a lineup, and, you know, if your lineup scores more points than other people's lineups, then you win whatever the payout is. I mean, it's gambling. It's just a different form of gambling. It's different than the money line or whatever. But for me, it allows me to kind of track each of my different players and follow them through the day. I get something out of it that's valuable for me because it keeps me more engaged in a lot of different games. So I don't mind it. And here's the simple fact. The way that I play, I think I bet usually about 150 lineups on FanDuel and about 20 different lineups on DraftKings, which ends up at the 5 cents per lineup or whatever that I'm betting to be about $14 across both platforms. And that's a normal weekend for me. I bet about $14 across both platforms. And at the end of the weekend, or at the end of the Sunday, basically, because usually it's just Sunday games, at the end of the Sunday games, I'm usually somewhere around $14, give or take. I may lose 50 cents on FanDuel and, 25 cents on DraftKings one weekend. And occasionally, every once in a while, I have a couple of lineups that do really well, and I'll make $5 or $10. So generally speaking, I've had the same rolling $100 in my FanDuel account and my DraftKings account now for about 3 years. I start out usually at the beginning of the season. I will be generally smarter than the field, and I will make a little bit of money. And by the end of the season, everybody has all the data and all the stats and all the stuff. And so they get tougher, and I generally tend to lose more as we get closer to the end of the season. So it balances out. And then next season, I'll have the same roughly $100 in my account that I'll play again. And it just makes the games more interesting. But the point is, I don't really gamble or bet to make money on any of this stuff. I do it kind of for fun. It adds a little more interest in these games. But I'm not the guy FanDuel is trying to court. And I can pretty much guarantee you, given the fact that I've had about the same $100 on DraftKings and FanDuel for probably 8-9 years, if I started to win, they'd just kick me off or they'd limit my betting. That's just what they would do. If I started to bet more and more and I actually won, they would just kick me off because, well, they're not about being fair or anything. They're about making money. And they've made absolutely nothing on me while providing entertainment for the last 10 years. It is what it is. every once in a while you go through a little bit of a down streak. Usually my end of season games, I start to, you know, I have to build up the $100 at the beginning of the season, because by the end of the season, when everybody's kind of on the same page, well, that's when you start to struggle a little bit. But the point is, I can't sit here and say it's all bad when I participate. So that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is that I think the fact that it's everywhere, is probably not good. It's probably not good. It's certainly not doing the casinos in Vegas any good. The fact that you could literally gamble anywhere from your cell phone. That can't be good for them. And Vegas has taken to a different different kind of motto. It used to be that hotels and everything were absolute loss leaders in Las Vegas. Like, they would basically give away rooms to get you to come there and partake in the entertainment and, of course, gamble. And I saw value in that. However, they've moved away from that model now to the nickel and dime you to death model, where they'll still have what seem like reasonable rates for their hotels, but then they'll add all of these resort fees on top of them, and then they'll charge you to park. And so what used to be a loss leader, where they would just be like, hey, please spend a plane ticket, come to Vegas, hang out, and stay for nearly free in a hotel and just have fun, enjoy yourself, because they knew they were making all the money on the gambling side and the entertainment side of what they had to offer. Well, when the second that they moved away from that model, they basically discouraged any average Joes from going to Vegas anymore. They started to just basically court people who have lots of money. Because I'm not going to Vegas and paying a lot of money to stay in a hotel. Just not. Even if it's a massive luxury hotel, I'm just not. The hotel is the loss leader. The hotel is where you stay so you can gamble. There's a reason why they comped rooms forever. And it's because they want to get you in the door. And they've seemed to lost track of that, because now they've piled on these stupid resort fees and paid parking. What? Really? Just give away the stupid room. The gambling is the money pig, you dumbass. But nope, they're too stupid to figure that out. So now people have turned to online gambling. So now they're not getting any money for that stuff in Vegas. And of course, I can go in Pennsylvania. I have a casino that's, 15 minutes from me. I could just go gamble there. And guess what? I don't have to get a room, and I don't have to pay for parking. Period. So why should I go to Vegas, where you're going to hit me with a resort fee and paid parking, when I can just go 4 or 5 blocks if I just want to gamble? Stupid. Really, the people running Las Vegas are just stupid, obviously. Or greedy, which they've always been greedy, but gambling revenue was always enough before. It's not enough now. So, we know what happens when you choose greed. Eventually, it comes back to bite you in the butt. And there'll be a point, maybe in the not-so-distant future, when Vegas will just be begging for people to come. And, they won't understand why nobody wants to come, pay their resort fees or anything, because they bought in. They think that's just the way it is. It's the way it's supposed to be. Sorry. No, that's not how it works. But I have to wonder, at some point, we're going to start to see massive rolling waves of people whose lives were upended, ruined, their kids can't go to college, whatever, because of how laissez-faire we've become about gambling, sports betting, and just gambling in general in this country. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, I see young people constantly blaming my generation, Gen X, for their problems. Oh, the housing is too expensive, and cars are too expensive, and all this other stuff. But they've just continued to add expenses to the list, which you don't need, like streaming services and ridiculous sneaker purchases. I mean, all kinds of stupid stuff. That's not my fault. I didn't do that. You don't need that. I've never paid for a streaming service. Let me say that again. I've never paid for a streaming service. I do not buy a new phone every year. That's basically the same as this phone because I felt like someone needed to see how cool I was because I've never done that. Never. This phone is already 4 years old and I'll probably have it for another 2 years. So don't tell me that it's Gen X's fault that you're broke. I don't own a gaming service that I have to pay for every month. Never. So I've never paid for a streaming service. I've never paid for a game, because I use that to own a house. And I use that to own cars. And I use that to create memories by going on vacation. And I do think there's going to be a reckoning for the gambling services because obviously people don't take responsibility for their own actions. It's always somebody else's fault. We're going to blame Gen X for the housing prices and the car prices and everything else instead of, taking any responsibility or anything. Or just saying, oh, well, we're poor because we spend a lot of money on stupid shit we don't need. Nope, we're not going to do that. And a lot of those folks are taking money they don't have or, whatever, and using it for gambling as well. Because, hey, I can bet $9 and win $500. But the odds of that are just so ridiculously small. It is. It's so small. You may as well just take the $9 and flush it down your toilet. Because that's essentially, you've got a better chance that your toilet's going to back up and they're going to have to dig up your sewer system and they'll find a vein of gold bars or something. You've got a better chance of that than you do winning the stupid $9 parlay that you just wasted money on. So why bother? Just stop. If you want to play, if you want to gamble, then get smart enough to understand what a good play is and what a bad play is, so that you're not just tossing money down a hole. Because even when you know it's a sure thing, it's still not a sure thing. They're just smarter things than others. And, man, just taking that advertisement money, there you go. So anyway, that's kind of my thought on the proliferation of sports betting and gambling in this country. I don't think it's good. I don't necessarily think it's bad, but there's no guardrails in place at all. There's no guardrails in place, so we're definitely going to start to see stories about people that lose their house and people that lose everything. And I think it's disappointing because nobody cares. I guarantee you FanDuel and DraftKings don't care. They feel like, oh, well, we're responsible to make sure the shareholders get paid. So they're not worried about you, the customer, at all. At least they're working to provide you with a customer experience that's good. Because, there's lots of little tools on there that you can watch your bet and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff on there that's, basically meant to add customer value. However, at the end of the day, their whole purpose is to get you to make bets on stupid things that don't matter and can't possibly win so that they can pay out their shareholders and make money. That's the bottom line. And there are no guardrails in place to stop them from taking whatever as much as they want, And that's the beautiful thing about parlay bets. Why do you think they love parlay bets? Because it's nearly impossible to calculate the odds once you get that stupid. So you don't even know if the money that they're paying out is anywhere close to reasonably decent odds for the $9 or whatever that you just put down. 9 times out of 10, the odds are so ridiculously astronomical that the money, the big number on the other side looks amazing. Oh my God, I could win $900 for a $9 bet. 9 times out of 10, that the odds should be closer to $5,000 or whatever. You're just getting, and they don't even know. They don't know the odds because they're so long it doesn't even matter. They know it's just the second that you make that bet, they could just deposit that money. So there you go. There you go. I mean, I'm just spitting facts here. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but that's how it works. Anyway, I love you guys. It was nice to have this conversation. I would love to see some people pop in and out and tell me how I'm wrong. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on in your life. That would be awesome and lots of fun. But yeah, I just pop on here, give my opinion, have some fun. I'm here to have a conversation with you, so please feel free to stop by anytime. We're generally here on every weekday around 10 a.m. We come, we hang out, we have fun. We'd love to talk to you. So, here we got muffin to say, and we're going to say it all day. I love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.